Okay, so let's begin. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Armando Florichu. I'm a senior wealth advisor at DBR China, and I'm based in Hong Kong. So today I'm doing this from home because, for those who are aware, there was a huge typhoon. So if you are in Hong Kong or south part of China, hopefully you all, well, right now it's much better, but hopefully you all stay safe. And if you are somewhere else, well, still, thank you for joining on today for today's webinar, which is about real estate as an overseas landlord or investor. I'm not sure where you are in your own journey. But yeah, hopefully today you'll get some insights from what it's like to invest as an international um, investor, just to be redundant on that. And I will be sharing some of my own experience because even though I'm a wealth consultant, like I help clients with these topics, I've also done it myself, and there has been some ups and downs. So happy to share, for everyone to be more aware, but also to, yeah, just to be very transparent with that. I'll start the presentation very shortly. I just wanna give you some feedback or guidance in terms of how to manage this webinar. You can use the chat box on the right side that you will see on your screen. Ideally, I recommend where there's a blue box that says, I think by default will show host and panelists. Normally, I recommend everyone to click on the everyone button so everyone can be able to see your comments or questions. You can also leave it as private if you prefer to, but yeah, normally that just generates more conversation and makes it a bit more dynamic. So let's start. Let me start sharing my brief presentation. And as I mentioned, I'm a wealth consultant at the DeVere Group, which is an advisory firm that helps foreigners, well, also locals, but mostly we work with foreigners in the sense of anything that is financial related topics, whether it's real estate investing, like the topic we're going to cover today, but it could be anything else, including retirement planning, portfolios, uh, I don't know, anything that you think may need some numbers and money related, we are probably uh, your first stop to help you with this topic, especially for those expats who may be right now in somewhere in Asia and who knows in 3 to 5 years from now. So let's start with real estate. So why is it an expat dream? In most of the conversations I have with clients, we try to identify what are their goals when it comes to money related. And being financially free is one of them, but talking about real estate comes in 80 to 90% of the meetings I have. And there's many reasons to that, right? So first of all, I would like to hear your opinion on why. Well, feel free to start sending on your own comments on the chat, like why is real estate very attractive. And there are different reasons. Obviously, there are many assets available in the market, but when it comes to investing into real estate, a couple of the reasons why people feel is a good asset for people to take is because it can produce a passive income. And I want to say passive in brackets because most likely requires a little bit of your time to produce that income. But yeah, it's still considered relatively passive because once you already have a tenant, start generating income, but you still need to do some management, whether you do it yourself or you outsource it to an agency. Another thing that is attractive is obviously being a tangible asset, meaning it's not like stocks where you may see something on the screen going up and down, but it feels less real versus a home that you can actually touch and see, okay, it's here and this is what it looks like and all of that. That also brings a sense of a safe investment. And again, I put safe investment in brackets because every investment has risk. So there's no real 100% safe, but it has its good elements of safety nets. And in the sense that because it's not liquid, it can fluctuate in price, but normally those price fluctuations, it's not like you will see the change of price every single day like with stocks. So that also gives you the idea of a bit more um, safety net on that sense. And it can also be generational wealth. It's a very common asset that people use to pass to other generations. And so, yeah, I'm sure there are more. I'm just highlighting the most commons that I hear and that I also believe there are. That's why I also invested into real estate. However, for all of us living overseas, investing into real estate, also depending where you want to do it, can be challenging. And most likely, especially if you are in mainland China, the amount of foreigners who will actually invest into property won't be high for different reasons. But yeah, if you are thinking of investing back on your home country or in a different location, there are different challenges that can arise. So let me see if I can share a quick poll just to get your thoughts on what are the main challenges that you think and come from trying to invest into property while living overseas, just to get a sense. And hopefully, most of these questions will be covered during the presentation, but if not, will be interesting. Yeah, I'll try to find out what's the main challenges based on most of your answers here. I'll give you more seconds, but as you can see on your screen, the challenges that I highlighted here is like choose a location, like where to buy, especially now I'm focusing on investment, not really like a home that you want to live in. It's more a property for as an investment vehicle. So one is choosing what's the right location. Another challenge, access to mortgages, which I think is very important if you're doing an investment, and also the management while abroad. Some people may not be sure where to start, or there could be others. Um, So from what I can see from the audience, the most common or the biggest challenge will be the access to mortgages, which is very important. And this is something that we can, and that I will share as well and cover. But yeah, definitely it's not the same applying for a mortgage. Let's think of your own home country. In most cases, if you're no longer a resident of that place where you used to live, accessing a mortgage can be even impossible or super difficult. So that's definitely a big challenge while you live overseas, which can be frustrating because maybe now you have the, I don't know, higher income that you had back in your home country, but now even though they don't really take it into account when trying to apply for a mortgage, they just simply say they cannot do it. So that's something I can understand and we all face. So let me share my journey. And I'm sharing this screenshot is a development that I invested into with my wife. It's a new development. They already finished it a year and a half ago, I think, in Manchester. And yeah, it's in the UK. I'm from Mexico. I've never been to the UK, but now we have a property, an apartment there that is rented out. There were a lot of emotions, obviously a lot of excitement into getting, at least for me, into my first real estate investment. But there were different things to, um, I wouldn't say surprises. Well, yeah, I'll share. So basically, the whole process is that back in 2023 on April, finally, after doing my own numbers, my own analysis of where am I financially, whether I already have my emergency fund, retirement provisions, things for my kids, etc., I check all those things on my list and I said, okay, now I feel ready to do something different, which was this purchase. So just to share the journey of how to do an investment overseas, or there are many ways, but this one, especially in the UK, there are many projects that are under construction. That was the case for mine. So when I bought it, it was still, I don't know, 20% of the construction done. So that gave me time to do the down payment, start doing the paperwork with the solicitors, 1 year later, ish, maybe 14 months, the completion of the project was done. So that meant at that time, actually 4 months before completion, I started doing the application for a mortgage. So maybe I should have included that. Normally, if you're buying, it's called off project. Uh, you start doing the mortgage application 4 to no more than 6 months in advance of the completion, so you can get the best rate at that moment, or hopefully the best rate. I will share also more about my own situation, which that was just unlucky timing, but yeah. And a month after that, uh, I got my first tenant. So what's fairly quickly, I don't manage it myself. As I mentioned, I've never been to the UK. I don't have a family in the UK. So I just have an agency that does everything for me. And they, after 3 weeks, I guess, since I got the keys of the apartment, they help me do everything, take photos, post it on different websites, and start, yeah, get a tenant. And yeah, I got the first payments, everything seemed fine. So it was relatively passive because I didn't need to do anything. I would just get the money from the rent after they collect their management fee. But a few months later, well, no, close to a year later, so it was not even the full first year of the tenant, but then I got a phone call from my management say, we have to talk. So the mom of this tenant, they just notify the agency that the son got arrested. So my tenant got arrested uh, almost 11 months, or maybe 10 months, I don't remember exactly, after the tenancy started, which I thought, okay, so now what? Obviously, that's not great news to hear, but that happened to me. Luckily, that hasn't happened to any of my clients or any of clients from different colleagues, but that happened to me. So that was my experience to get my first tenant arrested. It didn't happen in the apartment, which is also good news in my case. But yeah, they just told me, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna terminate your contract. Well, no, the contract of that tenant, because obviously that's breach of contract, doing illegal things, and then we can just collect the deposit. So the tenant was paying on time everything, the rent and everything. So I didn't really make have any money loss on that sense. They had to vacate and take their things out, and within 2 weeks, I got a new tenant. So it's a weird situation or scenario to have an overseas property and get someone arrested, but at least I was lucky enough to have a management company that know how to handle pretty much everything. And now feels like, okay, now things continue very smooth. I have a new tenant that is being paying regularly as well. Fingers crossed, nothing happens like that again. But yeah, that's my journey with very many ups and downs, including the completion, the excitement on getting my first property, start getting paid on that. But yeah, so why I'm sharing this is just to show you that there are so many risks on any kind of investment. And I'm still happy about my investment. That doesn't, even though I had experienced this kind of thing, uh, I know it's part of it could happen to anything. So there's, just to reinforce, there's no safe investment as it is. There, anything can happen. Now, what did I learn from here? I mean, probably I already knew some of the things, but they just reinforce some lessons. So there are different ways to risk for risk management. One, in my case, was having an agency to handle all of these things. Luckily, they are really professional to do all of that. That's one way to risk to manage your risk. Another way is that this is obviously not my first investment. Uh, Even though there was only 2 to 3 weeks of vacancy period where there was no income generated, and that meant that actually I did need to pay that mortgage payment for that month from my own pocket. I have many other things, so that was, I'm not relying all my financial situation on that one investment. So we need to diversify, make sure that we are in a good cash flow position to continue, have like a little buffer for emergencies or unexpected things. So that's another way to manage our risk. So suitability, so also need to make sure what's the purpose of that investment and whether that actually suits your needs or is not. Is it only a desire of owning a property, or does that match your potential long-term goals? And have realistic expectations, because anything can happen. Also, when it comes to returns, we can also discuss that in a few slides later. But yeah, we need to have realistic expectations on everything from the management of the property to what are the actual returns, and there will be some unexpected situations, and not just getting someone arrested, but also extra fees that maybe you didn't consider. That, for instance, for me, I was not aware of council taxes, so that was a new extra cost that was added to my analysis that I'm just keeping record of, because I had the disclosure of what are the expected expenses to pay, management fees, uh, service fee of the property, and few other aspects. But yeah, the council tax came some months later, and I was like, oh, what is that? But yeah, different things, and we just need to be flexible enough, and also our budget needs to be flexible enough to handle those. Now, when it comes to anyone else who is thinking of doing this, what does that look like? What are the main things to focus on when investing abroad? So some of the aspects is to find out, first of all, what are the available markets. If you are doing this as an investment, as I mentioned, it's very important to try to access a mortgage. Reason to that is that you can get a larger asset for I mean, by leveraging and doing a lower down payment, you can get something bigger. And that also impacts a lot on the returns, which we're gonna touch on that very soon. Uh, and the problem is that while you are investing abroad, the limitation to buy property overseas is maybe not as high. Almost every country will let you buy whether you live there or not. However, getting a mortgage, that's a difficult part, as you already mentioned on the challenge, most of you. Also need to think of the international banking aspect, especially I'm not sure about everyone's situation, but in my case, as I mentioned, I'm not from the UK, but I did need to get a UK account just to be able to receive the payments of the rental. Even though the rent is collected by the agency, I think by law they still need to pay in the home country. So I need to find a way to get my own bank account, even though I'm not a resident. So need to find out what's the best way. And the most important thing, what's the objective of the investment? This is something that we all need to look at. It's not the same investing into a property versus buying a holiday home that you want to rent out on Airbnb and maybe once a year use it as well. That's a very different scenario. Or your potential retirement home or where you may want to live very soon. Very different objectives with different um, ways to approach. If we are focusing on purely investment, honestly, what the apartment looks like or house looks like doesn't really make much difference as long as the numbers are aligned to your needs. Obviously, you do need to look at location, why this is a good place, like is there good infrastructure being there in that region? Is there population growth? Is there jobs? Or all of those things are very important, but not the actual look of the apartment or house. So we'll try to remove that more subjective elements when it comes to the actual investment. So let's do a case study, which is very similar to the one I did myself, just to give you an idea on what is a typical scenario. I'm focusing more on the UK because going back to this slide is that available markets, there are so many. However, places or countries in the world where you can access a mortgage as an investor, international investor, is very limited. I don't know the whole list. I know that the UK you can get one, and I'm a clear example. I've never even visited the UK for anything, for tourism or anything yet. But yeah, you can still get a mortgage even if you're not a resident. I think in the US you can also get one. However, I don't really get that many clients looking to buy there. Plus, it's quite expensive as well. Um, Southeast Asia, you don't really get mortgages if you don't live there. Some places may be or may allow you to do a payment structure, if especially if it's a new development that it would take 1 2 years. They'll let you like do the payment throughout that construction period. Same like in Dubai. Most mortgages for Dubai properties are for residents. There are exceptions, I would say, for Dubai, where you can get a mortgage if you don't live there, but it's harder. It's not like in the UK where 90 something percent of international investors could get a mortgage because they just focus more on the actual development, and also the supply of units in the UK is much limited than in Dubai, which means the, the international banks offering this kind of credits or mortgages, they feel very confident that regardless of the financial strength of the applicant, they know that they could just simply recall and take the property that you're investing in case someone defaults. So my one bedroom apartment price was 220, and down payment on average, you as an international investor, you need to do 25%. And that means you can access 75% of the value as mortgage. In this case, 65%, 65,000 pounds. That includes extra fees, legal fees, and maybe slightly more, maybe a couple of thousand more now because stamp duty increased a little bit in the UK. But anyway, that's pretty much around those numbers. And rental income for a one bed in Manchester, a new development is 1,150 roughly. Obviously, it depends on the size, the location. And when I share this with some people from Manchester, they think, wow, it's pricey, but because they're thinking of old apartments. These normally the developments that I access, like that I bought or that many of my clients buy, are in nicer locations with nice amenities, gym in the building, co-working areas, and all of these. Obviously, looking to attract um, tenants with a higher disposable income. That doesn't mean uh, more money means less problems. You can see from my experience, problems can come whether you have money or not. But anyway, so that's just to give you a rough idea. The 6.2% gross yield is on that rental income. Then mortgage cost, this varies a lot. It all depends on what's the rate you get, what kind of interest mortgage you're applying for, whether that's interest only or interest and capital. There are many options. And also, I was very unlucky that when I applied for my own mortgage was a year and a half ago, which was the highest peak of the rates. That was just unlucky timing, and nothing could be controlled. So I got a higher rate than what I show here. But I think today is very likely to get 4.5 to 5% uh, interest rates for a mortgage in the UK. So 687 will be the cost if you get an interest only on that kind of level. Which this in mind, you probably will cash out about £350 every month after paying the rent. Sorry, after paying the mortgage fees and the admin fee. It's not a lot. Obviously, most people won't get rich by just getting 350. You can increase your rental every year or every 2 years because that's just the standard. So definitely by doing that, you are gonna get slightly more cash, but like the real appeal is not really the income, at least for this kind of investment. It's more the potential growth of the property. So let's show you what this looks like. So let's say this property, day one, is worth 220,000 pounds. In 5 years, with a conservative 3 to 4% annual growth, it will be worth 261,000. Uh, and in 10 years, the animations were made wrong. So let me just get them all out. So 10 years, the is very likely that it's gonna worth 293,000 pounds. So that means even if you're doing an interest-only mortgage, on day one you own 165,000 to the bank, and on year 10 you still own 165. So let's say you want to sell the property, you still need to pay that same, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the amount above, so you can see your equity on day one, you pay 65K. 5 years later, that's already worth 96,000, which is already, even if you include the fees, that's already 30,000 pounds more in just 5 years. And if you wait 10 years, that's basically almost doubling your money in 10 years. Uh, and the reason to that is because you acquire a larger asset. So even though the real growth of the property was 33% over those 10 years, so from 220 to 293, that's 33% of growth. But your actual returns of 65,000 that will be worth 128 is a 97% return, which is three times more, thanks to the leverage of acquiring a bigger asset with a lower down payment. So that's the real appeal to do an investment like this. Because if you wanted to pay full cash, you didn't get any mortgage, just buy the full thing with your own savings, then your real return after 10 years will only be 33%. And in that case, actually, even though you will be getting some cash every single month from the rental because you don't need to pay any mortgage anymore, but still, it may increase to 40, 50% max of gains. And there are better assets that probably can produce more than that over the same period. But with a mortgage, 97% growth on 10 years is pretty appealing. Plus, obviously, you get the diversification. And here I'm not even calculating even though it's not that much, but the monthly excess that you get after the mortgage has been paid. Uh, so hope that makes sense. And obviously, I can also share these slides and have a chat. But what are the smart strategies, and what can you learn from well, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but from my experience of investing. So before jumping into deciding what kind of property to invest, you need to be very clear on your goal for this investment. Are you looking for the income that it may produce? Maybe you want that income for, I don't know, using that for your kids who are going to university, and that's a way to support them. Or you're just focusing on growth. Like in my case, I don't plan to live in the UK or Manchester, but my investment hopefully will double in value in 10 years or so. And then I could decide whether I keep it or I sell, cash out, and do something else with that money. Or you want to inherit that to your family. That's also valid. Be very honest with that goal. Then next part is focusing on what are the locations that can give you those kind of goals. Look at the cash flow. That's super important to look at the actual financial rundown, and also the financial options, whether the market that you were considering gives you mortgages, or if not, but you're still very willing to do that. You need to be clear that, okay, maybe I'm doing this investment even though there are better options, but I don't know, it could be a home for holidays that gives some benefit or happiness to my family. Sure, if that's what you want to do it, that's also fine. But at least you are gonna be very clear on that. Maybe the main objective of that investment is not the financial gains only, but also some other ones. And working with the right partners. And in my case, was having a good agency to help me manage. Obviously, I also help my clients, and then all my clients who have properties in the UK also have similar kind of agencies to help that I've been introducing to them. And I'm the advisor to guide them on whether a property investment fits their needs. So those are the main things that I want to share today. It's very short presentation. I just wanted to give a bit more insight. So now feel free to start sending questions on the chat so we can have another 5, 10 minutes of interactive discussion on whether you have any specific questions about what I shared today or anything that you think was missing. Also, here are my ways to connect, whether you want to connect with me on WeChat or book a time to chat with me. These are the QR codes. So yeah, let's see. Feel free. So let me type something here on the chat box in case anyone wants to start sharing your own questions. In the meantime, while people start sending your own ones, I will. Okay, so there's one already that I got privately. They're asking, oh yeah, they're asking about my mortgage rate. So yeah, as I mentioned right now, it's about 4.5 to 5%. Unluckily for me, I got mine at 6.7, which is quite high, and different reasons. One is my passport. Mexican passport are considered higher risk for some financial institutions, so that closed some doors to cheaper rates at that time, even though that was a higher, the highest peak. But anyway, so 6.7 was my rate at the moment, but I can remortgage in a year more. So in a year more, I will be able to uh, find a new option. And the good thing is that rates are considerably down from what I apply, plus having a history of 2 full years of a rental property that also gives me extra bonuses. So hopefully I can also get to that 5% or lower at that moment. Okay, another question is, do you know the mortgage and financing programs in Middle East, like Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Eh, I have, yes, I wouldn't say I know what it looks like. I know it's possible. If you prefer, we can have a chat in private, and because when it comes to mortgage, it's case by case. They look at each applicant. However, from my experience, it's possible, but a bit less options than in the UK. But yeah, definitely we can have a chat, and I can see what options are possible for your own situation. Because as I mentioned, it's a case by case scenario. Um, Any other questions? Anyone else would like to ask something else? And as I mentioned, while we wait for some more questions from the audience, some of the things that we do is property investment. But if you would like to get more information, whether that's about UK property or general financial planning, or just being invited to other webinar that we host, this is just myself, but our office does several webinars on different topics. Feel free to uh, just select that option if you would like to, or have any specific one. So, yeah, other than that, I'll just leave a couple of minutes for anyone else who has any additional question. Yeah, there was one more question coming in. So someone is asking, uh, in the UK, what are the minimum amounts needed to buy property? So the problem, or I wouldn't, maybe not problem, but when it comes to accessing international mortgages, uh, most financial institutions wanna secure a minimum loan. So in the UK, most of those institutions require no less than £100,000 of mortgage, which means if you are doing 25% down payment, at least you need to buy something worth £160,000 or above. Now, close to 180. That will be like the realistic entry levels. Because with that, you are doing maybe £60,000 down payment and 100K or 100 plus K loan. So that's what you're probably looking at in the UK. Um, oh, now that I also remember uh, going back to the Dubai or Middle East question is that there are many developers, especially there are many projects in the Middle East where construction takes 3 to 4 years. So they do allow doing that payment plan during those years, between 3 to 4 years. And that means no mortgage needed, but yeah, there's another way to do it. So I think there were no more questions. And I also don't want to take too much of your evening. So thanks again, everyone, for joining in today. You have now my contacts, and I'll be sharing the slides to everyone who register. And if needed, happy to have a chat. Will be interesting to hear what are your thoughts or experience or needs. And yeah, hope to see you in a different webinar in the future. All the best and happy rest of the week.